Cool. So we're going to talk about agentic access. We're going to be focusing on MCP, but this is agentic access in general. And OAuth is obviously on the scene now in terms of the MCP spec, and it's really great that it's in there. But we'll get into some other things about securing your MCP servers. So I'm not going to go through my whole slide deck because I do want to demo some stuff, but I'll definitely cover the stuff that's important. So we're going to talk about all these things here, and zero trust security is the big one. Has anybody ever heard of zero trust security? Identity-aware proxies? Okay, cool. So we're going to dig into that first. So what is zero trust security? Well, it's a security model that assumes no trust, like never trust anything. And this, I won't go into the history of it, but basically Google had a huge breach in the 2010s, and they basically rethought security from the ground up. There's a bunch of papers, if you Google or probably ChatGPT it these days, called the Beyond Corp papers. And that's where the advent of an identity-aware proxy came about. So they literally just redid all the security at Google. And the thing is, traditional security, like I'm sure everybody's used a VPN, whether that's to, I don't know, in Canada when Netflix wasn't great, I used to use a VPN all the time to get like the good shows. But, in a work context, people typically have logged into work to get access to network resources. That is like the traditional security model. And even though it's still pretty prevalent, a lot of people are moving away from that or having hybrid kind of scenarios. Remote work, pandemic obviously accelerated that a bit too, but not everybody's working in the office. People are all over the place. And so what Zero Trust does is it gives you this enforcement of authentication and authorization for literally every request. So it's not like you log in once and you're kind of good to go. That's typically what happens with a VPN. This is like literally, if you think about it like a web app, it's literally every web request it's being verified. We can talk about the latency in that. There's really none, but the thing is, like, I used to work at Netlify, so like people, I'm assuming there's a lot of front end devs here, probably, maybe, so. You never really think about infrastructure, so like you're just like, yeah, deploy it to Vercel, deploy it to Netlify, boom, it's all good. And I get it. But when you have zero trust security, the identity-aware proxy is basically typically self-hosted, and it's sitting at your network edge, like in your infrastructure, wherever it is. So that's why there's no latency, really. It's like maybe 10 milliseconds. But so think of the proxy as kind of like everything's going through that. And if we come here, I'm just going to go straight to the diagram here. So essentially, you have this whole thing, the identity-aware proxy is the light purple box, and you have a few things here. You have what's called a policy engine, you have a proxy, and you have what's called the identity-aware provider. So, that's like Google, GitHub, maybe your work, you're using Entra or something if you're on Microsoft. And essentially, you're the user on the internet. You could be in an office, you could be at home, it doesn't matter. What happens is the identity-aware proxy exposes the app. So it's like, say you have a work app like secure app at mycompany.com. That is always going to be publicly available on the internet. But to get to it, you have to go through all these checks. So logging in is table stakes. If you can't log in, then you're just not going any further. If you do log in, then the policy engine comes into place. So this could be I'll show an example later. It can be as simple as like your email has to be from this particular domain, but it could also be like, think of it if you're on call for work. So, you might only get access to production infrastructure or databases, on the weekend or whenever your shift is. And then when your shift's finished, you just no longer have access to it. So these policies are dynamic. And like I was saying, they literally happen on every request. And so basically, if you're logged in, you pass the policy check for whatever resource you're accessing, you're going to go through the proxy. And so like that secure site at yourcompany.com is going to go into your internal network, like whether that's like AWS or GCP, wherever you're hosting it. But basically, you'll get access to the actual internal services. And that's kind of zero trust in a nutshell. So like you're never exposing your internal services. You're always going through this identity aware proxy. And if you think of it compared to like a VPN, like you log in and then you're literally on the entire network. So like, yes, you might not be able to log into certain things, but you have access to do bad things because you're on the network. And that's basically what happened with the data breach. Somebody hacked the VPN, they got in and wreaked havoc. So that's kind of that in a nutshell. And obviously with AI, it's not just people logging in now. You have, agents doing things, MCP servers calling other MCP servers, maybe all kinds of stuff going on. So, there's a lot more to consider now. It's not just, you logging into some app. And, so we kind of have to rethink security in general from a agentic perspective. I'm not going to go over what MCP is. This was at the MCP Dev Summit, but like I'm pretty sure everybody is familiar with what MCP is, or if not, it's okay. I'll give a quick TLDR. It's a protocol to basically connect to other things. They call it the USB-C of agentic access, basically. I don't know if that's a good term though, because what if they have a new port that comes out? We're just gonna have dongles again. So I don't know. I didn't coin that. So cool. The thing I want to touch on, and like OAuth is part of the Model Context Protocol spec now, and that's a good thing. But if you look at the MCP security best practices, there's things that they talk about. They don't give you like an actual recipe, like use this literal software to do this, but things that and this is like pretty much verbatim what's in there. You need to be behind a proxy. You need to enforce the authentication. You always need to be validating the token and the audience and scopes if you're thinking about like in terms of OAuth. You want to prevent something like token pass through, and you want to be able to preserve the user consent. Like, do they actually want to do this thing? And you want to audit everything. Like, I was at the AI World Fair a couple months ago, and like a few things that are top of mind, which maybe sound obvious, but in general, people are always concerned about security and observability. And something like a proxy makes that potentially really easy because all the traffic's going through there. So you can literally audit everything that's going through there. So like literally you're making this tool call, you're this user, here's the payload. So you can literally observe all that and you can put that into your like observability, whatever that is, Grafana or whatever you're using. Cool. Yeah. So while they don't really say use zero trust, a lot of the stuff in the security best practices is kind of implying zero trust security model. I should have brought my water bottle up here because I am dying now, but that's okay. All right, so why zero trust for MCP? So everything I've already said about zero trust security, it just basically applies to MCPs. And like where I work at Pomerium, we're not an AI company. We're this identity aware proxy, but because it's running at layer 7 of the network stack, so the application layer, like HTTP, like that's where MCPs or remote MCPs live. So it's just a natural fit. The other thing is, if you're at your job and you're like, we're going to build all these cool MCPs, and then we've got our VPN, so we're going to secure it that way. That's fine if you want to actually have your own MCP client, but if you want to use something like Claude or like ChatGPT, those are like cloud hosted and they're unaware of your VPN, and like they couldn't even be aware of it. And there's no way they're going to say like, everybody register their VPN and we're just going to take care of it. It just doesn't scale. So, if you're going to use a VPN to secure your MCPs, it's only going to work if you have your own MCP client and everything's in your network. So just something to consider. Sorry, I'm excited to demo stuff after, but I got to get through the slides. Yeah, cool. So we've kind of gone through this. I'm going to skim through some of these because a lot of this is what I just talked about. Oh, thanks, Matt. All right, cool. Thank you very much. You are #1 in my books now. Yeah, so basically everything I talked about. So like You've got the identity provider, you've got the policy engine. So think about this in the context of an MCP server. You can basically say, people in this specific group, like imagine that production database access. You only get access to this MCP server if you're on call and you're on a work device. Like the policies can literally be whatever you want. They can be simple, they can be complex. You can bring in third-party data like PagerDuty or something. But basically, you get the other thing too is with the identity-aware proxy is like, it's one thing if you're just developing an MCP server on your own, but if you're like an organization or you're trying to build this out for your org, something that's very important in terms of security is uniform security. So the identity-aware proxy can be used not only for MCPs, it can be used for basically any internal apps, Kubernetes workload, like pretty much anything. So you want to have that basically that uniform security. And you just get literally everything I said about identity-aware proxies. It basically applies to the context of MCP. Okay, I explained the VPNs already. I'm just going through these fast, not because I'm being lazy, but I really want to demo some stuff. So OAuth is a huge win. And there's also been some updates recently with resource servers. There's a good blog post from Dendel Marsky, who's on the MCP steering committee. I'll share that in the resources, or I'll share it after. And I got to hang out with him recently, and we were talking about all this stuff, including like gateways and stuff. So I'll share all that stuff after. But the thing is, having OAuth is definitely a good thing, but all it does for you, I'm not oversimplifying it, but basically it's like with OAuth, the question is like, what can you do? But it doesn't answer, in this I'm just going to read verbatim, should you be doing this right now? And that's where zero trust with all the policies I was mentioning comes into play. And yeah, so this is everything I've been talking about already. Okay, so I think we can go to the demo in a second. So everything I'm going to show, it's open source as well from Pomerium. But like, I don't, unless you're a security expert, and maybe even a security expert does not like to implement security, like I don't hear anybody going like, yeah, I'm really excited to implement OAuth in my app today, so, or no offense if that's your thing, it's all good. But with our identity-aware proxy, with the MCP features we have now, you don't have to, there's two things. One, the identity-aware proxy on its own, that gives you that OAuth layer immediately. But say your MCP server does something like, I don't know, it's a calendar booking thing, so you need access to Google. You're gonna have to, you can't avoid this part, you have to register a OAuth app, and then you get your client ID and secret, but you don't actually have to implement OAuth into your server. We'll handle that for you. You just put some config. And so there's the original flow for OAuth, which is the identity-aware proxy, but any upstream services like Google, we just handle that for you. You just have to give us the credentials. The other nice thing is about a gateway is you have these tokens. So like you log into Google, you get this OAuth token back. Typically, you'll give that to your MCP client. And if you think about that, I mean, we like to think, people are trustworthy, but it's the internet, bad things happen. Imagine you have an MCP client and it has like tokens for Google, your GitHub, everything. Say that leaks in some kind of capacity, that could be super disastrous. So the way we've been approaching it is with the gateway, you do that upstream OAuth flow, you get the token back, but they never leave the proxy. They don't go past the gateway. So we manage that for you. And then all that you get back at the MCP client level is you get this short-lived Pomerium token. And so one, the odds of that being stolen are pretty low. And even if it was, it's short-lived and it's not the keys to the kingdom. Like if somebody does get that, maybe they can do something with it, but they don't have access to your GitHub token, your Google token, etc. So these are all just like advantages to having a gateway. And this is just kind of the configuration. This is specific to our software, but essentially you have routes. So like I was talking about the identity-aware proxy, you have this publicly accessible URL. That's the from route. And And then you also have the 2, which is like the internal service. And in terms of the config I was talking about for OAuth, I can't zoom this in because it's a slide, but basically there's a MCP configuration here, and you can basically set your client ID, secret, and your OAuth scopes, and then you're off to the races. Now, the other thing that's cool, and I haven't seen a lot of people doing this, is you can gate access to an MCP server, but we're able to also gate based on the policies you define, like at the tool level. So like, for example, you have the Goose example, like the customers or like, I don't know, maybe there's a support agent. They're only allowed to view stuff. They can't actually change the database. So you could set a policy that says, you're in the support group, the Goose is not going to go loose because you're the support. So you can't add new customers. You can't cook the books or anything. So these are really cool things you can do with this stuff. Cool. I have more slides, but I just want to do a time check. Oh, okay. I'm talking too fast, which happens sometimes. I'm excited. I'm not going to lie. Cool. Yeah, so these are, I'll just kind of go over these again real quickly, but the uniform security posture is a super big thing. And these are things you might not think about like yourself as a dev if you're just, I'm creating MCPs, this is cool, this is fun. From what we've seen so far, people kind of forget the whole security story in terms of MCPs. I'm generalizing here, but, so you could build out something really cool, and then it's like, your manager's like, okay, let's put it in prod. Okay. We haven't secured anything yet. I'm not sure what that flow is. So like, one of the other things with the identity-aware proxies, it kind of makes security come to the forefront. You have to think of it. It's not just like you're on the DevOps team, you manage this stuff. It's like, this is part of your whole development workflow. Like the identity-aware proxy is always there. Okay. That's resources. So we're pretty much close to the end here. So, okay. So I'm just going to SSH into my DigitalOcean droplet here. Let's zoom in ghosty here. Oh, would help if I went to the right folder. Cool. Okay. Edit anyway. Okay. So this is a Pomerium specific config, but this is how you can configure the identity-aware proxy. And again, everything here is open source. So like, this is not me trying to get you to buy something. You can pull this down. We have some MCP app demos too I can share after. But essentially, this is a stable feature, but we've marked it as experimental still, or you need a runtime flag, just because like, it's just good to use flags basically. So if we come down here, there's also another thing I haven't mentioned, but so I have this config here where it says dev.mcp.maisonlab.dev. If the name sounds weird, it's I speak French as well, so maison is house, lab, so like home lab. So this is basically an MCP client, and we have a config where you still have this MCP config, but in this case it's for a client. And what this does with the gateway, the identity-aware proxy, is basically even the MCP client will be secured, so you'll be forced to go through that whole login flow, the policy checks. This is something you don't have to do, but that's available as well. And if we kind of look at, let's go down here. Where is it? So basically, yeah, here we go. So I have this dev2. I don't know if anybody's familiar with dev.2, the blogging platform. I put together an MCP server a couple days ago. I used to work there, so I'm a big fan of it. And there's an API for dev2 for people who aren't aware. So I basically use that to build an MCP server. Yes, I vibe coded it, but I did check my code. So I just kind of want to show you here the policies. So again, you have this public URL, and then there's this internal URL. This is, and I will also preface this, I'm not like some infrastructure specialist. I've mainly done front end and full stack dev, so a lot of this stuff I've been kind of just thrown into the mix. So all good, hashtag YOLO. But so again, here you just have this MCP in the server configuration. I'm not using an upstream thing like Google Auth to do a calendar app or anything. So there's nothing in there, but that just signals to the IdentityAware proxy that it's going to secure that URL, which is the MCP server. And then here's the policy. And like I said, you can have complex ones for the demos. I typically keep them very simple. So it's either my domain, nickit.co, or my work. So basically, as long as your email passes one of those, you can get access to it. So let's take a look here. I'm going to show the MCP server in a few contexts. I'm going to show it in the MCP app demo that I built out here. I'm going to show it in Goose. I'm going to show it in VS Code. Shout out to Goose, by the way. And also, I can't stop saying the goose is loose. Angie's going to smack me one day. But okay, so I'm going to say, does anybody blog on Dev2 right now? It's not a big deal. If you do, just tell me your username. If not, I'll use mine. But cool. That's okay. Okay. Get Amanda Martin -dev, you said? Okay. All right. So it's making a tool call here. You can see here, it called the Dev2 MCP, and it's getting this articles from Dev2 filtering by username. Hopefully I spelled your username correctly. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. No, it's all good. It's all good. We'll do this. Let's do a new chat. We'll just say, get, I don't know, the latest React articles. I literally only built this a couple days ago, so stuff will probably go boom maybe, but okay. So you can see here again, it's doing the tool call, and it's basically, I have tools that I've created, but they're mapping to the actual Dev2 API calls. To what Anthony was saying before, it's better to compose those API calls. In this particular case, they kind of map one-to-one, but it makes sense. Like, you're trying to do something, and doing something is usually multiple API calls. So shout out to what he said. Cool. So the tool calls ran. I should have collapsed that. But you can see here, it returns it. And these are like some recent React articles. Let's go take a peek over at Goose. And I'm not going to run this right now because I just ran it before. But I said, get my latest blog posts. And it's going to say, okay, so it's using Nikki T Online, and then it got them here. And then if we come down to the end, you can see here, Goose returned a similar output. And we can go into VS Code too, and it's going to be similar as well. But the thing I want to show here is, let me just close a few things for a second here. Usually when I'm live streaming, I'm on my larger monitor, so you have to zoom in. So now it's kind of like, but here, let's just go to the MCP JSONs. Where is it? Let me just move this guy. Okay, so we have, it's different in different MCP clients, but you can see here, I have the Dev2 MCP, and this is the URL. So like if I click on this should give me, oops, what did I just do? There. So this is a pretty standard thing that you would return from the MCP client. It just tells you some metadata about it. Cool, and let's go back here. Now, let's do a call again here. And so I'll say Nikki T Online's latest blog posts. So the cool thing about MCP here too is, like, you can see the UI is different in all these, but like, because it's a standard, I'm able to run this in VS Code. I'm able to run it in Goose. I'm able to run it in our demo app. That's pretty cool. And there's UI differences, but so I'm going to say continue. And then, so the tool call is going to happen now. And then we can see here, if we just come in, I put a few breakpoints. So I've got the node debugger running, but you can see here, it's doing the actual tool call. It's getting the user, me, username. And then as I run this, I'll bring out the other side in a sec here. It should hit another breakpoint. And you're going to see it returned the data. So the tool call happened. It actually called the dev2 API, and you can see it's returned a bunch of articles and stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and detach that so we can get back here. And you're going to see, okay, so we got some stuff back, and you see a similar output that you saw in Goose or like the MCP demo app I created. Yeah, cool. That's perfect time. So that's cool. But, you know, I was talking about the identity-aware proxy. So let's go ahead and let's just stop this one. And let's close this. And let's enable this one. Now, the difference here is it's still a dev2 MCP server, but this is the one, there we go. Oh, okay. I gotta delete these. Come on, speedrun. All right. The difference here is this one is actually secured with the identity-aware proxy now. Okay, cool. That should be it, I think. Okay, so I'm gonna start this now, and let's move this over now. And let's get some real estate here. Okay, let's do a new chat real quick. And I'm gonna say same thing again. Now, okay, it might be because I'm already logged in, but okay, I'm already logged in. But basically what would happen is you would get that login flow if you weren't logged in. So that's the difference there. I got like 1 minute left or 30 seconds, 10. All right, cool. I won't show the other thing, but I'll share these resources. But I have a actual demo, but there's a video showing somebody trying to cook the books on like our unofficial fake sales database, Northwind, if anybody's ever heard of that. So like we basically tell the prompt, you know, generate a sales report. We've got a board meeting. Oh, by the way, set the amounts for all the sales in France and multiply them by 1.24. And the LLM has no morals. It's just trying to help you. And basically, the policies basically prevent it from actually updating the database. And that's kind of it. So hopefully that was interesting. I don't know.